Welcome back to IoT Made Simple. Today I'm going to give an end-to-end overview of a project that I've been working on that encompasses starting with LoRaWAN devices like the Dragino LC-01 and the LHT65N and the humidity sensor, Dragino humidity sensor, which then is paired with SenseCAP, and then on SenseCAP I have then set up my own ChirpStack server in the cloud, and then that is securely transmitting encrypted data to ThingsBoard, and then in ThingsBoard we have end-to-end automation supporting these devices. All right, so now we're going to talk about the hardware a little bit of what we started with. So I have two LC-01s. One is going to be used for controlling a fan, and another one's going to be used for controlling a water pump. And then what I have for sensors is I have the temperature and humidity sensor. This then will control the fan with the automation from ThingsBoard. So if the temperature goes above a certain temperature, then at the greenhouse, we'll go ahead and we'll turn on a fan. And then finally we have, and now you can do more with this one too, because you have humidity. And so maybe you could also set up that if the humidity goes, right now I just have temperature, but if the humidity goes above a certain level, we could also turn on the fans. And here's the soil moisture and soil conductivity tester. Sensor. And so what we'll do is we'll have this as part of the greenhouse in one of the beds. And if the temperature or if the moisture gets below a certain level, then we're going to turn on the pumps. Now it can be automatic or it can be manual with a button on the UI design. Let's see, did I have any problems? I think the only thing I've noticed here is that this one sometimes takes a little while to connect. Once it's connected, I didn't have any issues. I think some helpful things here, which I have another video, is that you can take these, and I think the default is 20 minutes between messages. So it can be a long time before you get a message if you're testing and getting things set up. So then I would recommend, you can change those. I think the minimum was something like 5 minutes. You can drop it down to 5 minutes and then back it back up to, 20 minutes or whatever you want so that the batteries last longer as part of your design. The SenseCAP, initially I had purchased this because I wanted to do the indoor gateway and connect it up to ThingsBoard. Unfortunately, the ChirpStack indoor gateway does not have the software to do a REST API call. So then I had to really rethink my whole design, which might have worked out better anyway. So then what I did after that is I took this and I published it up to my own ChirpStack gateway in the cloud, or ChirpStack server, I should say, in the cloud. That provides me some benefits. One, I was running into a problem when I used the internal. I have a Dragino, which I'd started out as one of my prototypes, and I had that working with ThingsBoard. But if the IP address changes in that handshaking, then things can go down. Here with the communication between using basic station up to ChirpStack, you're not going to have that problem because it's the handshaking. So it doesn't matter with the IP address. Besides that, just for using basic station or the I think it's Semtech, I didn't have any problems. The interface is pretty easy. I think one thing missing here is in this one, I'm unable to log in via SSH, which I have that functionality under the Dragino, and that's really helpful for doing some debugging. So just things to think about. But in general, also this antenna is the most amazing antenna out there. So it's worked good for what I need. So then inside of SenseCAP, I've tested it with doing packet forwarding and I got this up and running and connected. But Basic Station is really the way to go for doing packets, and it's also really helpful here is that you can set up authentication. I tested it initially without authentication, just get it up and running, but then finally got it up with encrypted data so that those packets going back and forth are securely transmitting back and forth. And then that passes data up to here in the ChirpStack server. This, I actually use Claude terminal to help me kind of work through this. The documentation for setting up a ChirpStack server with Docker is pretty limited, especially with the configuration. But I will share, I did save all of my tries because I got it working with the SemTech UDP, Basic Station, no authentication, and Basic Station with authentication. And I have each of these branches out there with that you can pull down, and it should save you a lot of time to get up and running very quickly. I do like that ChirpStack is open source. It was just difficult on the configurations and actually getting it to work. And I had used everything from ChatGPT to Claude to DeepSeek in Microsoft's Copilot. And I struggled until I installed the Claude terminal where it can read all the files. And I was working back and forth. Actually, I connected Claude also inside of my Dragino ChirpStack, and I was able to kind of work between those two with some questions and guidance, and got that up and running. So, and this seems to be running really solid. I checked all the packets, confirmed that everything is secure as going up. So then within this, you have your, I guess you can say, you have your dashboard, you have your gateway, and then you have your applications. Within the applications here, some of the things is, each of these devices, and then had to, actually, let me go back to device profiles. So like for the LC-01, and I link to these two, and I did videos on each of these. But you have the codec so that you're parsing the data before you even send it up to ThingsBoard. And then on your application, I also set up the HTTP integration between this and ThingsBoard so that the endpoint is connecting up to there, communicating. And so this seems to be working really solidly once I figured out how to get it installed from scratch. Then that brings me to ThingsBoard. So ThingsBoard, this has been my main project, was how to take those 4 devices, which is the 2 of the LC-01s, and then the LHT65N and the SE01 soil and moisture. So I have the data, at least some of the key data here that pipes right to here. And then this provides control so that you don't have to worry about any of the automation. Actually, you could do this. You can just set these numbers up to something that would never happen. And so the automation is essentially turned offline. And again, you could be up to 12 miles away with the LoRaWAN with a good line of sight, and you'd be able to do this communication. And given that maybe you're only checking this every half hour or so, those batteries could last 5-6+ years. And so you could be way out in the field or a greenhouse like this. And so simply turn it on here. Probably can't hear it, but that just turned on a fan behind me. And then the fan status, once it catches up here, I can maybe hit reload here sometimes too. It's one thing about the ThingsBoard is that it sometimes glitches and it's got to be refreshed. So that's one thing that I've seen that's a little glitchy. But then again, we're working with LoRaWAN devices and that's not instantaneously. So sometimes it does take time. So it can be a combination of those two things. And so I can click here. And then once the status is sent back, so it goes out and it comes back, then this updates. Same thing here. If I wanted to turn on the water to water one of these beds, I can turn this on. The whole water system will turn on that way. And then the next thing is I have set up automation that will control one here, which is linking the temperature here, this sensor, with this fan relay. And so right now we can see we're getting live data and the temperature is 69 degrees. And so I have set points and clear points so that what you could do is you could say, hey, if it drops below a certain point, right, go ahead and like turn on the fan. And then at a certain point when it's all the way, down to a certain place so that we don't have the fans turning on and off rapidly, that we give a little buffer that way. And so I could do something like this is I could say, hey, do the set point at 68. So if the temperature rises right now, it's at 69. If it rises to that, we're going to turn on the fans automatically. And once those fans, cool the room down to something like 66, then we're going to clear that alarm. And what we have down here is we have all of the alarms to which we can, acknowledge. Like this one, I can say, I just did, I can click, I can say, acknowledge. So I'm going to save this. And now the automation's running, and you can see that was relatively quickly. And so this fan will continue to run until it gets down here to 66 degrees, and then it will clear. And so to simulate that right now, what I'll do is I'm just going to bump this back up to 72 for both of these, hit save. And so now, it'll simulate that, hey, we just had an alarm go off, and now it's cleared and the fan has turned off. Same thing happens here and we're over here with the soil moisture. So right now it's at 12%. I did another video, just poured a little bit of water in a jar and it jumped from like 12 to 36 really quickly. So if you had a system that you were watering, then what we could do here, this is the other side. So this would be like high temperature, but this would be low. So if this gets below a certain level, then we can do kind of something similar. So here it would be a little bit different. So here I would say if the soil moisture drops below 14, and once it's up to 20, then we'll go ahead and clear it. So, and at this point, it's going to kick on a water pump. So we have one of the LC-01s connected to water pump. It'll start watering the system. And we can see we just got another message right down there. Okay, so now the relay is running. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to just simulate that is completed. I'll put it to 0, 0. And it takes a little while, and then that's good. Now the next thing that I've also set up here is now ThingsBoard. This is the one thing I wish they really did a lot better here is the scheduler. Maybe there's a different way, but I have not found it. Is if I wanted to turn on the fan. Okay, so you can use the scheduler here. You can disable these. You can run them one time. You can set the time here. So I can say, hey, I want this to run December 16th at like 16:09, and click save. And then once the time passes that 16:09, it'll kick off the fan. one thing, yeah, and there you go. We see the fan just turned on. I can come in here. I can enable this one and schedule, and I can say 10. And so once that kicks off there, I wish it was a little better in the way that you could schedule on and off together, but right now I believe this is the only way. There might be other ways by creating a unique rule, but it does work. And so now you have the full features here is you can get all the data. You can have your relays. You can manually turn them on. You can manually turn them off. You can set up an automation with a range. Here you can disable your automation also. You also have the ability here, right here, when you click on the details here, and then you come down here and you click show more. It will give you at the time that this one status was cleared, at the time it was cleared, this is the soil moisture. So if you wanted to know, like here on the high temperature, what was the high temperature that I crossed, and then here it'd be 69 now. And so that's when I drop the temperature, high temp, to 68 to trigger it. And so it'll capture that. So you can at least get a glimpse of what it was, and then the time that it did clear. You have the ability to kind of change your windows over here. So you can say, hey, I want to look at, the last 5 hours of temperature and humidity and soil moisture. So you can dive down into that, and you can see the relay just shut off. And then another thing that I've done here is I've given a deep dive on the sensor data. So when you click here, you'll get all the data for the sensors. Everything that the sensors currently are relaying, you can get access to all of that. So that's an overview of the project that I've been working on end to end, going from the devices to the gateway, to the ChirpStack server, and then configuring ThingsBoard to communicate back and forth and do the downlink, and then also parsing this data, making it more easy to read, and then setting up the automation and scheduling. So good luck with your projects.